The day Mr. Motsepe was arrested, the world finally saw what had been hiding in plain sight. A man who once walked with confidence, surrounded by respect and fear, suddenly stood powerless. No money spoke for him, no name saved him. In that moment, one question echoed louder than the sirens. How did a man so untouchable fall so hard? Mr. Motsepe was not just a rich man, he was a symbol of success to the public. He was calm, polished, and always in control. People saw him as a leader who built his empire from nothing. His name opened doors. His presence silenced rooms. When he spoke, people listened not because they loved him, but because they feared what would happen if they did not. He understood power better than anyone around him. He knew how to smile while making threats sound like advice. He knew how to shake hands while planning someone's downfall. This double life became his greatest weapon. Behind closed doors, Mr. Motsepe lived by a different set of rules. He believed laws were only meant for weak people. To him, money was protection, and influence was freedom. Every deal he touched carried a hidden cost. Every promise came with a shadow. People who worked under him know one thing very clearly: loyalty was not optional. If you stood with him, you were rewarded. If you questioned him, you disappeared from the picture, slowly and quietly. No one ever spoke about it openly, but everyone felt it. His power grew because fear grew with it. What made Mr. Motsepe dangerous was not just his wealth, but his patience. He never rushed. He watched, he waited, he studied people's weaknesses, and used them when the time was right. He made enemies feel like friends and friends feel like servants. Over time, he stopped seeing people as human beings. To him, they became tools, numbers, and obstacles. The higher he climbed, the more distant he became from reality. He truly believed he had beaten the system, and for a long time, it looked like he was right. But power like that always leaves cracks. The more control he took, the more pressure built underneath. Lies stacked on top of lies, secrets buried under success. And while Mr. Motsepe enjoyed the view from the top, he never noticed how unstable the ground beneath him had become. His story was no longer about winning, it was about how long he could delay the fall. The truth about Mr. Motsepe's empire was never clean. Every business move had something hidden behind it. What looked legal on paper was dirty in reality. Contracts were signed under pressure. Deals were closed through threats. People were forced to choose between survival and silence. This is how black gold shows us the real cost of power. Not everyone who suffered was poor. Some were powerful, too, but even they knew when they were being controlled by someone more dangerous. Money flowed through places it never should have reached. Accounts were moved, names were changed, faces disappeared from records. Mr. Motsepe built a system where nothing pointed directly at him. He placed others in front, making them look responsible while he stayed untouchable. This gave him confidence. Too much confidence. He started believing that no matter what happened, someone else would always fall before him. That belief pushed him to take bigger risks. People around him started to feel the pressure. Some wanted out, some wanted justice, but fear kept them trapped. They knew what happened to those who tried to leave. Black gold makes it clear that silence was not loyalty, it was survival. Families were broken, careers were destroyed, lives were controlled by one man's hunger for more. And the worst part was that Mr. Motsepe slept peacefully through it all. Slowly, the silence became heavier. The system he built started to work against him. One mistake led to another. One trusted person started asking questions. One file didn't disappear. One voice refused to stay quiet. Mr. Motsepe ignored the signs because power had blinded him. He thought fear would always protect him. He forgot that fear can change sides when people have nothing left to lose. This section of the story is important because it shows that Mr. Motsepe's downfall did not happen overnight. It was built piece by piece, deal by deal, threat by threat. Every action he took planted a seed. And those seeds were growing, waiting for the right moment to surface. Betrayal does not always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people who know you best. Mr. Motsepe trusted very few. but the ones he trusted knew everything. They saw the files. They heard the phone calls. They watched the money move for years. They stayed silent because silence kept them safe, but safety has an expiration date. When fear turns into regret, people start thinking differently. One person decided they had carried the weight long enough. This was not a sudden decision. It came from years of guilt and pressure. Every time Mr. Motsepe crossed another line, the distance between loyalty and betrayal became smaller. The moment that changed everything was when Mr. Motsepe proved he would sacrifice anyone to save himself. That realization broke the final wall of trust. Information started moving quietly. Evidence was copied. Conversations were recorded. Documents were saved instead of destroyed. Mr. Motsepe had built his empire on control, but he could not control conscience forever. The same system that protected him now began to expose him. He did not notice at first. He was too busy fighting enemies he could see, while the real danger sat right beside him. What makes this betrayal powerful is that it was not emotional. It was calculated. The person who turned on him knew timing mattered. One wrong move could cost everything, so they waited. They watched. They gathered enough proof to make sure there was no escape. When the truth finally moved, it moved fast, faster than Mr. Motsepe could react. This is where his confidence became his weakness. He underestimated the people he used. He believed fear erased courage. He believed money erased morals. He was wrong, and by the time he realized it, the trap was already closed. The arrest was not dramatic because of noise. It was dramatic because of silence. Mr. Motsepe did not fight. He did not run. For the first time, he had no words. The power that once followed him everywhere stopped at the door. No phone calls worked. No names mattered. This was reality. And it was unavoidable. Black Gold uses this moment to show the truth. Power only lasts as long as the system allows it. As he stood there, everything he built collapsed in his mind. Every deal, every threat, every lie. He realized that all his control was an illusion. The people he ruled were already moving on. Some felt relief. Some felt anger. Some felt free for the first time in years. His arrest did not just take away his freedom. It exposed how weak his empire really was. The aftermath spread fast. Allies disappeared. Enemies stepped forward. Secrets surfaced. The world Mr. Motsepe controlled no longer belonged to him. Black Gold makes it clear that justice does not arrive clean or easy, but when it comes heavy. His fall was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of consequences. This section closes with a powerful reminder. No matter how high someone rises, no matter how untouchable they seem, the truth always waits, and when it stands up, even the strongest men are forced to kneel. Motsepe's empire did not grow in the light. It grew in shadows, in quiet rooms, and in deals that were never meant to be spoken about. On paper, everything looked clean. Companies had proper names, meetings had proper records, and money moved through the right channels. But behind that clean surface was a system built on pressure and fear. People signed contracts because they had no choice. Others agreed because saying no would cost them their jobs, their safety, or their future. This is where Black Gold slowly pulls the curtain back and shows how power really works. Every deal Mr. Motsepe touched carried a hidden message. Work with me and you will rise. Stand against me and you will fall. Many people thought they were strong enough to play his game. At first, it felt rewarding. Money came faster. Doors opened easily. Respect followed them wherever they went, but that respect came with chains. Once someone benefited from his system, leaving became impossible. Mr. Motsepe made sure everyone had something to lose. Fear was the real currency of his empire. It kept mouths shut and eyes closed. People saw things they were not supposed to see and pretended they didn't. They heard threats disguised as jokes and laughed along. Over time, this fear became normal. It became routine. The worst part was that some people stopped feeling guilty. They told themselves this was just how the world worked. Black gold shows how corruption does not always start with evil intentions. Sometimes it starts with small compromises that slowly grow out of control. Money moved through hands that never wanted to touch it. Names were placed on documents to protect Mr. Motsepe. Not to tell the truth, if something went wrong, someone else would take the blame. He stayed distant, clean, and untouchable. This distance made him careless. He believed his system was perfect. He believed loyalty could be bought forever. He believed fear could never turn into courage. But pressure changes people. The more control he demanded, the heavier the weight became on those under him. Families started to suffer, sleep disappeared, guilt became harder to ignore. Black gold makes it clear that silence has a breaking point. When people feel trapped for too long, they start looking for a way out, even if that exit is dangerous. Cracks began to form where Mr. Motsepe least expected them. A document not destroyed. A conversation remembered too clearly. A person who stopped being afraid. These small moments did not seem important at first, but together they formed something powerful. His empire was no longer protected by silence alone. It was surrounded by people waiting for the right moment to speak. This section reveals the truth behind black gold. Power built on fear is never stable. It looks strong from the outside, but inside it is already falling apart. Mr. Motsepe thought control meant safety. What he didn't understand was that control creates enemies. Long before it creates success, betrayal did not arrive loudly in Mr. Motsepe's world. It came quietly, built from long nights of silence and years of swallowed fear. The people closest to him were not blind followers. They were witnesses. They saw the truth behind his calm voice and polished smile. They knew how decisions were made and who paid the real price for those decisions. For a long time, they accepted it because acceptance felt safer than resistance. But safety that is forced never lasts. One person, someone Mr. Motsepe trusted more than most, began to see the cracks clearly. This person had defended him, covered for him, and carried secrets that should have destroyed any normal life. Every order followed added weight to their conscience. Every threat delivered in Mr. Motsepe's name left a scar. At first, they told themselves they were just doing their job. Later, they realized the job was slowly destroying who they were. The moment everything changed was not dramatic. It was personal. Mr. Motsepe made it clear that loyalty only mattered when it benefited him. When trouble came close, he pushed blame downward without hesitation. He protected himself and sacrificed others. That was when trust finally broke. The realization was painful but simple. No one was safe around him, no matter how loyal they had been. From that point on, silence became unbearable. Information that was once protected started to feel dangerous to hold. Files that were meant to disappear were copied. Phone calls that were once ignored were remembered word for word. The person who decided to turn did not act out of anger. They acted out of survival. They understood that if they waited too long, they would be the next person Mr. Motsepe destroyed to save himself. What makes this betrayal powerful is patience. There was no rush. Every move was careful. Every step was planned. They knew that one mistake could expose everything. Mr. Motsepe continued to operate as usual, unaware that his greatest weakness was sitting close to him. His confidence blinded him. He believed fear had erased courage completely. He believed people would always choose safety over truth. As time passed, the evidence grew stronger. Proof stacked quietly, piece by piece. What Mr. Motsepe saw as control was actually dependency, and dependency creates resentment. The system he built depended on people staying silent forever. That was impossible. Black gold shows that betrayal is not always about revenge. Sometimes it is about release. About choosing truth over fear. When the final move was made, there was no turning back. The trap did not close suddenly. It closed because Mr. Motsepe had already sealed it himself. By underestimating the people he used, he created the very force that would bring him down. His empire did not fall because of enemies outside. It fell because the truth inside finally refused to stay buried. The arrest of Mr. Motsepe was not loud, but it was heavy. There were no dramatic speeches, no shouting, no last-minute escape. What made the moment powerful was how ordinary it looked. A man who once controlled rooms, deals, and life stood still while the system he believed he owned finally stood against him. In that moment, everything he trusted failed at once. His money did not move. His name did not protect him. His power did not answer. For years, Mr. Motsepe lived with the belief that consequences were for other people. He had watched others fall while he stayed untouched. That belief shaped the way he walked, spoke, and decided. But when the law finally reached him, reality hit harder than fear ever could. The silence around him was louder than any accusation. People who once rushed to please him now kept their distance. No one stepped forward. No one defended him. What Black Gold shows clearly in this moment is the illusion of control. Mr. Motsepe did not lose everything because he was weak. He lost everything because his strength was borrowed. It came from fear, silence, and protection that was never permanent. When those layers were stripped away, there was nothing left to stand on. The system he thought he controlled revealed its true nature. It was never loyal to him. It only tolerated him while he was useful. As he was taken away, the impact spread. Quickly, offices that once followed his orders fell into confusion. Deals froze, partners disappeared. People who lived under his shadow finally breathed freely. But that freedom came with fear of what would surface next. Mr. Motsepe's arrest did not bring peace. It brought exposure. Every hidden action now faced the light. Every secret became a risk. The most painful part of this moment was not the handcuffs. It was the realization. Mr. Motsepe understood too late that the world had already moved on. The fear he used to control others no longer protected him. In fact, it isolated him. Black Gold uses this silence to show that power built on fear collapses. The moment fear changes direction, this section is not just about one man being arrested. It is about the end of an era built on intimidation. Mr. Motsepe's fall shook everyone connected to him, not because he was gone, but because his absence exposed how much damage he had caused. People were forced to face what they had ignored. Some felt guilt, some felt relief, some feared they would be next. In the end, the arrest was not the climax. It was the turning point. Mr. Motsepe's power ended, but the consequences were only beginning. Black Gold reminds us that justice is rarely clean and never simple. When the truth finally arrives, it does not just punish one man, it reshapes the entire world he once controlled. After Mr. Motsepe was taken away, the world he controlled did not collapse instantly. Instead, it shook slowly, like a building realizing its foundation was gone. People who once followed his orders were suddenly forced to think for themselves. The silence he left behind was uncomfortable. Meetings ended without decisions. Phones rang without answers. Everyone was waiting to see who would fall next. Those who benefited from his power panicked first. They knew how deeply they were connected to his system. Some tried to erase their tracks. Others rushed to change sides. Loyalty disappeared overnight. Black Gold shows how quickly respect turns into distance when fear is no longer useful. People who once praised Mr. Motsepe now acted as if they had never known him. At the same time, those who suffered under him felt something unfamiliar: freedom. But it was not clean or joyful. It came with anger and regret. Many realized how much of their lives had been controlled by one man's ambition. Opportunities lost, choices stolen, voices silenced. Mr. Motsepe's arrest did not give them their past back, but it gave them something powerful: the right to speak. Truth started coming out in pieces. Stories that were once whispered became public. People stepped forward with proof, not because they were brave, but because they were tired. Black Gold makes it clear that once fear breaks, it does not return easily. The system that protected Mr. Motsepe could not stop what it no longer controlled, but chaos followed honesty. Power vacuums never stay empty. New players began to move. Quietly, some wanted justice, others wanted control. The fall of one empire created space for another. This is where the danger remained. Mr. Motsepe was gone. But the mindset that built him still existed. Greed did not disappear with him. Those closest to Mr. Motsepe faced the hardest reality. They were forced to answer questions they had avoided for years. Some were arrested, some were exposed, some tried to disappear. Black Gold shows that consequences do not choose favorites. Everyone connected to corruption eventually faces a cost. This section shows that endings are never simple. Mr. Motsepe's arrest was not a clean victory. It was a warning. Power always leaves scars. Even when the source is removed, the damage remains. The world he built would never be the same, but it was far from healed. As the dust settled, one truth became clear. Mr. Motsepe's story was not just about one man falling. It was about a system being exposed, and once a system is exposed, it can never fully return to the shadows. Black Gold does not end with Mr. Motsepe's arrest because the story was never only about him. His downfall is used as a mirror, forcing everyone to look at what power really is and how easily it corrupts when left unchecked. The series makes one thing clear. Men like Mr. Motsepe are not born powerful monsters. They are created by systems that reward silence, fear, and blind obedience. When those systems are ignored, they grow stronger than any single person. Motsepe believed power meant control over others. Black Gold challenges that idea by showing how fragile that control truly was. The moment people stopped being afraid, his influence vanished. This is the deeper message of the story. Power does not live in money or status. It lives in people's willingness to accept injustice. Once that willingness breaks, even the strongest figures fall. The series also asks an uncomfortable question. How many people knew the truth and chose to stay quiet? Black Gold does not let them escape responsibility. It shows that silence is not neutral. Silence protects corruption. Many characters are forced to confront their own roles in keeping Mr. Motsepe untouchable. Some acted out of fear, others out of greed, but the damage remains the same.